Hello, everyone.
All
So
right.
glad to have you here in our show, Creating with Franz, today with Tony Concept all the way from San Diego, Greater San Diego. So, welcome to the
Yes.
show, Tony.
Welcome. Welcome. Well, thank you. And welcome to all the guests out there that are watching us today. I'm excited to talk to you, Franz. This is like a great conversation to have. And yeah, I mean, you're out in the mountains and I'm here in sunny Southern California.
Oh, yes. Can we swap anytime? I've interviewed a California psychologist this morning. I was like, okay, we have
Yeah, I've
almost
traded in
zero.
the snow. I'm no longer in Brooklyn, New York. I dealt with snow for 15 years and in the cold. So now I'm here in 65 degrees every day in San Diego.
Sounds good to me. So, guys, why are we here today? We're here to help you to create the life that you want. That's the whole purpose of my 5.5 years of podcasting. But
Mhm.
sometimes we have a lot of scarcity mindset and limiting beliefs. I can't do this and I can't do that. And we really have a story going on in our head that makes it impossible to get this job, especially in the art, especially now, art and design, where Canva or AI or Photoshop can do everything you can do better and faster and almost for free. So, a lot of people who have art in their mind, they want to do music, art, theater, singing, visual arts, murals. They think, oh, nobody's ever gonna pay. And what can I do? I
Hmm.
can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but I don't want to show it to anyone. So this discourse
Hmm.
keeps going, and then me when we end up in 14, 50, maybe we're working in as a tax
Hmm.
person or in a shop, but we're really dying to do art. And I'm here with Tony to help you to dismantle this really deeply held beliefs that art has no value, only
Hmm.
very important people get to fine art galleries, and
Right.
nobody's gonna see us. The invisibility and scarcity. So tell us a little
Hmm.
bit about your story, how you got to the conclusion that I'm totally wrong.
Right. So, so first off, just kind of, piggybacking off what you're saying or what you've said so far is, the scarcity mindset there, right? With art being a limited, place to grow and build a career out of. For me, I remember, I had a art teacher. Her name was Bonnie Stabler in my 12th grade year in Charleston, South Carolina. And Mrs. Stabler took me to New York to see my first gallery show. And I remember, I saw Rene Magritte, Salvador Dali, and I saw a Jean-Michel Basquiat all in one space, for the first time in the 12th grade. And I remember standing in front of this Dali, no, actually it was Persistence of Memory, I believe. But I was standing in front of Dali and Magritte was right there. And I had a Magritte poster on my wall all through high school. So when I saw the actual painting, you know, for the first time, my eyes kind of watered up. And I didn't even know how to explain it, and it was because I had looked at this work, my whole high school career, and to finally see that someone put their hands on it and really created it in front of me, it was greatly inspiring. And that's what actually, moved me. And my teacher, Bonnie Stabler, salute to her where she's at in the world right now. She helped me pursue my career in art. And when I got into school, I realized early on I was an illustration major, and I didn't want to jump out and start, hustling and doing the whole like freelance thing. So I changed my major to communication design, and I just knew by doing that, maybe if I do a ComD major, which is, more graphic design and communication design through graphics, then I'd have a better chance at going out and getting a job, after school and wouldn't have to struggle, as they say. So I wanted to be a fine arts painter. So I've always believed in building a mousetrap. And what I say by that is, you can have a day job, but then always build a mousetrap. If your day job is from, 9 to 5, then maybe from 5 to 9, you're building this mousetrap. And that's, maybe the work that you really want to do. And getting out of school, I began doing, just like we're talking about, I couldn't get a job immediately. And, I wanted to get into apparel. I was already making clothing and stuff like that in college. So instead of and I was always making stuff for my friends. So I couldn't go out. I went and knocked on doors. I put my tie on. I had a suitcase, I think, at the time, or my going to Kinko's making these portfolios, and I took them to all of the big fashion houses, and they didn't want me. So instead of being fully discouraged, I met a guy named Richard Lou Dennis at Nubian Heritage It's a little shop downtown Brooklyn, and he said, "Hey, why don't you sell your clothes that you make in my store, and I'll pay you, a hourly salary, and you just build your business out of here." And I started doing, my apparel, the things that I was already doing in college for my friends in his store. And I took the body of work from, maybe doing that for about 2 years. And I went back to some of those same fashion houses that I had took my portfolio to earlier. And I landed, my first design job with a company called Echo Unlimited, a really big popular streetwear brand at the time that I've been trying to get into for 2 years. But it wasn't that I went there the first time, knocked on the door, and he looked at my portfolio and said it was trash. It wasn't good. I didn't give up. What I did was I built my own vision and learned as much as I can, I should say, working on my own product. And I use that as a portfolio module to go back to that company and get that job. So, sometimes I like to tell people, and I just heard the artist Jay-Z say this in his GQ interview, things aren't working against you, they're working for you. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, even though I didn't get that a job initially, it allowed me to go work on my own product and figure things out on my own in a way that then landed me into that space. So with art, just like any other career, we really have to have a certain amount of fight, I guess, in us. You know what I mean? To kind of go after the path that we want to. So if you're a musician, whether it be you play the guitar or the keyboard, or you paint paintings, or you're a writer, those doors might not open up for us immediately. You know what I mean? But if you stay in alignment, with the path that you want to go on, the universe will conspire to get you where you want to go.
Love it. It is true. This alignment is important because, yes, sometimes we just have to have a job to
Hmm.
pay the bills and go ahead
Hmm.
until we can specialize in the area where we really want to have success because that's what makes us passionate. And for some of us, it will
Hmm.
never be a full time job to do art or design or singing, but it
Hmm.
can be a very way to have a fulfilling life and even
Absolutely.
help others. And some artists don't work as artists as such, but they become teachers. They have courses, they go to school
Sure.
and teach. So there are lots of ways of enjoying art. It isn't just
Hmm.
making a cute painting and put it on the wall. There is a lot more art than that. And I've been talking to somebody
Sure.
recently about how she brings art to the society. That's
Hmm.
Jaylin Singleton. She's also in California.
Hmm.
You should get in touch. She's
Yeah.
bringing workshops to the people who can never afford art classes,
Wow.
to the
Yeah.
old people, to the young people, to the vulnerable people, to
Hmm.
crime involved people, to people coming out of prison,
Yes.
to everyone, so that everyone can see that art has a value and
Hmm.
isn't just sending a pretty picture, but helping people to
Hmm.
express themselves, to feel good. So it's a wider
Yeah.
purpose, and you can have this experience. And I like that you started with producing. This also works
Hmm.
with fashion design, doesn't it? You can't just go to a company and say, "Here's
Hmm.
my cute design." No, no, no. If you start
Yeah.
making them and
Yes.
presenting made stuff, and
Yes.
you're selling them,
Yes.
then you get back with a brand. They want you.
Yes. So in the interim, I began with fine art, putting art in the streets because I couldn't get in the galleries. I didn't have the body of work to get there, so I became a street artist. From street art, I started getting placements in different galleries, and I always used my corporate job, to kind of even help feed into to building my fine art portfolio, and now even working with the global marketing agency and building another agency or building a brand that's a mousetrap, it really is the same process. So one of the things that you said that was really important was to keep producing. And I was going to give that out as one of my tips for folks to follow. And I think my number one tip for that is be a tree that produces fruit. And this was told to me by a mentor of mine, Upendo Taylor, a great, brilliant artist. He just did a really beautiful mural, really beautiful mural work they just launched in Leimert Park, and he has always given me great guidance. And he said, yeah, be a tree that continues to produce fruit. So, despite where you're at in life, if you continue to work on what you're doing, and you continue to be this tree that produces fruit, then the door to abundance will open for you. So I did say a lot, and in a bit I kind of rambled there, but another key takeaway for that from that, from what I just said, would be your mousetrap. That's everything. I've worked silk screen and t-shirts, after having a college degree and thinking to myself, man, how did I land here? This is not what I really want to be doing. But I would continue to go home after that job and try to work on my portfolio to then land me into the next space. So I think that's the game that we have to play as artists. You have to feed yourself, your family, or take care of your lifestyle, but then also stay in hot pursuit of your passions and goals.
Amazing. So good. Tell me a little bit
Hmm.
more about how it works. So, we're talking about your creative flow and
Yeah.
how you have your spirituality, your
Hmm.
discipline, and your creative
Hmm.
flow all going together. And how are you balancing your intuition
Hmm.
with the
Yes.
structure so you keep continuing to produce
Yes.
meaningful work that is a high level while doing all the
Hmm.
rest?
Yes. So I mean, that's great. I mean, that brings me to my tip number two for all our people out there. Tip number two would be always keep a growth mindset, right? A growth mindset, is key in terms of traversing through the difficulties of the world, and still believe having that self-belief. When you talk about intuition, if you have an intrinsic feeling that, look, man, this is what I'm put here to do, then the universe will conspire to get you there. But keeping a growth mindset is actually what has laddered me up, in different stages of my career. I try to keep both the corporate and the fine art side moving in an upward direction. And I remember with that growth mindset applied, I was head of brand design for a company. I had done a huge art show in New York, with some of my favorite street artists and the likes of Shepard Fairey and Maya Hayek and Kenny Scharf, for this PHA for a Healthy America. I met Michelle Obama at the time, and I was on a high, and I lost this job, as a head of brand design because I kind of overshot. It was one of those situations where I didn't know what I didn't know. And when I lost that job, my growth mindset told me, man, I really got to figure out how to get a career position that I can hold on to. And I read Douglas Davis's business strategy and design, and that book actually showed me how to solve business problems with creative. And by doing that, I landed the current role that I'm at right now. Working like I said with a global marketing agency, and I think it was one of those times where my intuition told me that I was gonna get to another level, but it also told me you don't know a lot of things that you really need to go back and do some knowledge on. You need to study. So one, intuition and seeing the clues that the world gives you is very important. I think I'm a believer in the Most High. I believe that, I meet people for a certain reason. I believe that everything is a lesson, and with everything being a lesson, there's no such thing as a setback. It's like, okay, this didn't work out. What do I learn from this, and how do I take that, whether it be pain, hurt, or disappointment, and how do I turn that into motivation? How do I turn that into something that's really positive? So, I mean, you see behind me, I have a lot of books here. I'm going to show you this one. Let's see. Creative Strategy in the Business of Design for anyone in the design world by Douglas Davis. That one that one saved the day. And in terms of mindset, I go to let's see, I really love Joseph Dispenza. This is Evolve the Brain. This is Evolve the Brain by Joe Dispenza. And Dispenza is really brilliant, man. He talks about the power of the subconscious mind, right? And well, the power of the subconscious mind, which is another great book. I think that's Joseph Murphy. But the subconscious, start there. What we're telling ourselves consciously, is really important in terms of uh, you know, how you grow and move in the world. So if you're giving yourself negative thoughts or you're having negative self-talk, then that's going to hinder anything that you do, whether you be an artist or someone who works in the bank. You know what I mean? So two things, the creative strategy and learning and constantly reading, constantly trying to elevate the things that you don't know, um, with that growth mindset is probably paramount in terms of figuring out how to get to where you want to be.
So true, and thanks for sharing those titles. I'm very familiar with Joe Dispenza's and his work, and the
Yes.
fact that he was paralyzed. He was a chiropractor, wasn't he? He got paralyzed, and just
Mm.
using the power of his mind, he taught himself
Yes.
to walk again because he visualized how
Hmm.
his toes were feeling. He visualized
Yes.
every single increment, and
Yes.
eventually he surprised everyone. He was told after his accident he was never going to walk again. So if you
Mm.
can be going from paralyzed to fully walking because of the
Hmm.
power of a mind, think about all the rest that we can do. It's just crazy. And
Franz,
the energy will
what you just
go.
said, what you
Sorry.
just said right there, and not to cut you off, I apologize. I
Okay.
was just I do capoeira. It's a Brazilian martial arts, and my master, he was telling me a story just this past week. He was saying, yeah, I was injured for a whole year, and while he was injured, he was just thinking about how to do different flips and different movements. So he said, once my injury was up, I just started learning all of these flips and movements like in one day because I had visualized them for the whole year while I was like hurt. You know what I mean? So the power of visualization. I just want to double down on that, friend. Sorry to cut you
No,
there.
that's okay. It's good that I was caught because
Hmm.
visualization is when you see
Hmm.
this image, you feel it, you hear the sounds, you can taste it. It can
Hmm.
create the same reaction in your brain as if you actually live in it, which is
Exactly.
exactly why when we watch a movie, maybe a Hallmark movie, and we laugh a little bit and we cry, remember Final
Yes.
Kiss, or you watch a Roman war movie
Yeah.
or some explorer or 007
Right.
and you get really tense. Horror movie, you almost die of a heart attack.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because your brain cannot tell the difference between what is truth and what is not truth
Right.
because
Right.
the emotional reaction is there. So if you
Right.
imagine you can do it, if you can visualize it, I
Yes.
mean, unless you say flying, okay, we can't really visualize we're flying.
Right.
But there was a study shown quite a few, 15, 20 years ago, showing that two groups of people who play the
Hmm.
piano were put in
Hmm.
front of a sheet of music.
Hmm.
Half of a group, or one of the groups, practiced with a piano, and the other only practiced by reading the music and visualizing, and they were
Mm.
both the same when they finished. But
Wow.
the study was conducted for muscles, people who did exercise, biceps
Uh-huh.
curls, and people who didn't do the exercise but visualized the exercise had the same muscle growth.
Really? Well, that's amazing. That is amazing. And I believe it 1000%. It goes to when I first started learning about the power of the subconscious mind. I realized, you can wake up in the morning and you can stub your foot on the bed. And right. So if the first thing you do is say, "Oh man, I just stubbed my foot. Today is going to be terrible. I've already started it off wrong." You know what I mean? Then what's going to happen? That day is going to turn into a complete, you know, loss. You know what I mean? But if you wake up and you stub your foot in the same way and expect something wonderful to happen, you know what? I stubbed my foot, man. It's all good. Something great's gonna happen today. 9 times out of 10, something great's gonna happen that day. So, it's the subconscious way we talk to ourselves or communicate thoughts and ideas, that really dictate, what our outcome is gonna be. So, yeah,
We agree on that, man. So
we agree on that. Yeah.
you said I'm an Italian trying to sound a little bit more American. It doesn't work, but it's okay.
Oh, nah, yeah, you got the cool accent. See, I just yeah, my accent's all over the place now, from the
Well,
south to the north.
I lived 30 years in Italy and 30 in England, pretty much. So
Amazing,
I've got like
amazing, amazing.
a messy accent, so people have to really struggle.
Yeah,
What the heck is she trying to say? But I've
yeah.
heard you saying you believe in a bigger being. I call that God.
Hmm.
And I think that
Yes,
God wants to give us blessings and
absolutely.
inspiration. But when we
Hmm.
start our day by thinking, oh, that's not going to work, he thinks,
Hmm.
well, he doesn't want these blessings, so I'm going to give it to somebody else who is ready to receive. So if we're not ready to
Exactly.
receive, how can he
Yes.
give us this blessing? We have to be ready to say, thank you, God, for this blessing. I know I'm going to need it.
Hmm.
I'm going to work really hard and I can visualize and walk with faith. When we walk in faith,
Yes.
You learn.
Yes.
That's how the birds. You look even little
Yes.
birds versus a nest, and they've been in this
Hmm.
nest for I don't know how many weeks. Every bird is different.
Hmm.
Then you see the webcam there, and it shows that one day the mom kicks them out,
Yep.
kicks them all
Just
out.
throws them right ahead.
And they just go. They don't think,
They
oh
just
my
fly.
gosh, my wings are
Yeah.
not going to be very good and now I'm going to
Right.
fall down. They just
Right.
go. And we should be a little bit more like these birds because we all have wings,
1000%.
but we have
Yes.
to fly, don't we?
Mhm. Yes. I mean, 1000%. We're always students and we're always kind of like, apprentices, but we can't be paralyzed. Like decision paralyzation, I think is what they call it, right? When you know what you want to do, but you just can't get that first step down. That's
Yes.
something that we have to focus on. So you just approaching things like that, approaching it like my failures are going to be lessons makes it a lot easier to just start and
Mm.
do. We lose that from childhood. I tell people like all the time, try to stay childlike. Approach things with some naivety. Like naivety is the word. I'm sorry, but if you approach it with that kind of childlike, when kids say, you know what, we're gonna go outside. I have two little ones, an 8 and a 9 year old, and when they say we're gonna do a lemonade stand, they just go out, make a sign, get their lemons, get their water, the sugar, and they go out and sell lemonade. And they didn't have a business plan for that. They didn't come up with a long deck, and talk to their CPAs or get insights. They just said, you know what, it's hot outside. Let's go sell some lemonade. So and that's just kind of how you got to approach it. Go make lemonade. You know what I mean? That's the way to do it if you want to be in hot pursuit of what you really want to do. So I
Mm.
urge everyone out there, that idea that's in your head right now, go out there and do it tomorrow.
Go
You
and
know
do
what
it.
I
It's
mean?
called analysis paralysis, where we,
Analysis paralysis. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
right?
Oh,
We're like, "Oh, we're gonna fail, and you fill your mind with all that. Well, the mind cannot see
right.
anything else because all you're seeing is the failure.
Exactly. Exactly. So look, my last tip that brings me kind of I guess I will, that brings me, to my last tip. And it was around, I was going to say always be a student and an apprentice. Um, but I think it's important, what you just said, and I think that is to just be childlike, So I mean, I guess the last one was just to be childlike, but I think maybe we covered it all. I'm not sure if there's anything else to cover.
So
Hmm.
I think that's the important thing. It's not about to cover the 40 minutes. It's just to give
Yeah.
this message of hope that
Hmm.
if you as a person wants to start with a career or you
Hmm.
have a very good hobby, which can be any of the arts, then
Hmm.
instead of filling your mind with spaghetti and hot potatoes of rubbish, like, I'm gonna fall, this is not gonna go
Yes.
well, nobody's gonna look at it, think what if it actually works?
Hmm.
If actually goes well.
Hmm.
And meanwhile, there
Hmm.
is a process of learning and on getting those muscles growing and connecting also, because you can be also an artist if you connect with
Yeah.
other artists, other actors,
Yes.
singers, and muralists, and whatever there is. If you connect, you still have a
Oh,
lot of the joy that comes with the art, because art isn't just like doing a 9 to 5 job in an office. It gives
right.
you a lot more, doesn't it? So you want to embrace
Hmm.
that and jump with
Hmm.
both feet in. And you might say, oh, I'm a mom, I have kids, I have no time. Guess what? If you have
Right.
kids at home
Hmm.
and you do art and craft with them, or
Yep.
you put up a production at home, family evening or something, and you do something, you go to the park, you pick up art stuff and you put it together, that is still art, and you're
It
doing the
is.
art and they're learning the art.
Yes.
So there are no excuses, there is always something. And even I know people
Hmm.
disabled on a wheelchair, missing
Hmm.
limbs, they're still doing art.
Look, listen. So let me stop you right there because one of my favorite, most inspiring artists was in a wheelchair. His name is Chuck Close, and I got a chance to meet him in New York. Rest in peace, Chuck Close. He was kind of a controversial guy, but he painted in these little boxes, like little. He did these beautiful, brilliant, large format portraits, and he would do basically a small painting in each box that he would grid out on the portrait. So when you stood all the way back, you saw this beautiful portrait, and then when you looked up close, it was just a whole world of things as you looked at each one of the squares, right? And one of his famous quotes was, "Inspiration is for amateurs. Just do the work." So he didn't believe in inspiration or waiting to be inspired. He was like, he approached art like a blue collar guy. Wake up in the morning and work from, 9 to 5 on his paintings. You know what I mean? And that's how he approached art. So with that even being said, I'm gonna actually kind of change the last thing I'd say to folks out there because, like you said, Franz, this is for the mother who's sitting, watching the baby right now. This is for the guy who he might not like his job, but has a grand idea in his head that he knows he wants to get out to the world. Um, I'm gonna say show your work, and find a way to do that. I mean, whether it be through Etsy or through social media, like I can give you, a practical way if you do crafts, put your crafts on Etsy and make them for a marginal price. When I first started doing my paintings, I got a house now in Southern California, but I lived in an apartment in Harlem, New York, and I used the kitchen as my workspace. And then when I moved to my next apartment, it was the kitchen again because I didn't have it. But now I got my studio at home. And the first thing I did was I started selling, paintings of friends and family, on my social media. Here's something for $50. Then it turned into $100. Then it turned to $150. And as I began to grow and my art got a lot better, I was able to net, more, primarily just going direct to selling my work to people who liked it. And by showing your work, you'll find a way to connect to your audience. The people who will like the things that you produce will gravitate to it, So, yeah, don't be afraid. Don't sit on the music that you've created or the songs that you've created. We live in a world of technology now where it can all live on the internet, and there's a space for you there. So, yeah, show your work. And if I had to double down on my three tips, that's be a tree that continues to produce fruit is one, right? Keep a growth mindset is two, and we'll say for the third one, show your work, So that's my three keys. And the last thing I'll put a bonus one in there. You guys see behind me, I got two whiteboards. It's not even limited to whiteboards. If you go in my bathroom, I have a dry erase, marker and I write, different things on my mirrors. And one of the things on my mirror right now, I believe this came from Neville Goddard, and it says, "Thank you for showing me this issue has been resolved." And a lot of times when I go in the bathroom in the morning and I read that, it automatically gives me calm and peace. So find those affirmations, to keep you going. I think in learning about the power of the mind, having positive affirmations and writing my thoughts down or writing my goals down, writing my to-do list down and crossing those off, those are all ways that are going to get you to where you want to go, be it, art or anything that you want to find success in, I think.
Absolutely, Tony. This has been a great chat. I'm so glad that you are showing enthusiasm and a clear way of telling us that it is possible to do art. You can do it when you're 5 year old, when you're 50 year
Hmm.
old, when you're 100 years
Hmm.
old. All depends
Hmm.
on what is here.
Hmm.
Forget about the others. You're doing art because you love it, because it gives you
Yes.
joy. It's not because you have to be famous or to be Picasso. It's just because you love doing it. And I think
Hmm.
when we're given this gift of liking art, it's a gift to us, and then we can give this gift to the world. You can go to the park
1000%.
and do our
Hmm.
art and share it.
You talk about God, right? One of the things like, with God, the Most High, as I call it, I look out at a tree or I look out this bush outside of my window and, there's maybe a million shades of green, in this tree. And that's what excites me about art because I can just grab a palette and I'm merely trying to mix those green colors to come up with maybe 10 or 15 colors when the
Mhm.
creator, has shown me there's 1,000 ways or a million ways to create that green. So just the fact that you have the ability to create, should motivate you to do your work. It's a beautiful gift that's been given to you. And to your point, Franz, it's like, yeah, that's what you should give to other people. That's what we're here for. We're not here to drop fries in a fry bin or, folds t-shirts up at a retail store or count numbers in the bank. We're here, to chase the creator and be creators ourselves. You know what I mean? I really believe that, and I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to express myself through art. You know what I mean?
I
I just wanted to
absolutely.
also say one thing too, because I don't know we have time. I do want to say if you guys go to unmasked/film.com, you can check out the trailer for Unmasked. It's unmasked-film.com. You can check out the trailer for that, and that's the next mission, trying to you reverse this cultural erasure that's been happening and really put people in front of the arts and kind of build bridges to other worlds. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, and there will be all the links in the description of the show. You will see how to get to Tony Concept and see what he's doing, and how
Excellent.
art can be used also as a tribute and protest while you're
Mhm.
building sustainability and
Yes.
avoiding burnouts. You're doing carefully, intentionally, you dismantle your scarcity narrative, and all this it's quite visible in all the work that Tony is doing. So, what is stopping you from doing art? You.
Yeah.
You are your
What
worst enemy.
you gotta cut it out. Cut it out. Go do some art right now. You know what I
Cut it
mean?
out. Yeah, everyone has 10 minutes a day. Everyone. So I'm telling this to
Everyone.
myself because I don't have time. Everyone has
Man, I
10
tell you.
minutes. Just limit the
Absolutely.
time you scroll. Instead of
Hmm.
scrolling, scroll with the
Hmm.
finger on a piece of paper. Just,
Yeah. And it can be super cathartic, So that's what I like to do when I get stuck, I'll just go out and just paint anything, because sometimes I get carried away with trying to sell work or feeling like it's an obligation. When it turns into a job, I don't like it. So I try to find ways to make it cathartic. I put one song on and I might just put that song on repeat to get in a deeper flow state, to try to like kind of calm my mind. So sometimes when I'm working in the studio, I may listen to one song over and over and over again. So I don't really have to concentrate on the song. I can
uh,
dig deeper into my flow state as I work. So little things like that are another gem for you guys out there to figure out how to get to that flow state, right?
we got this. Well, we're gonna close. So thank you so much for Tony, to Tony for being here and give us so much that I just want to get started straight away. How about you guys? Do you wanna get started? If you have any questions, write to us and
Mhm.
tell us, hey, I interviewed so many people now about art and how to just not worry too much about this AI, because you can still do your art and the human touch and the connections are what really matters. So thank you so much to Tony.
And thank you, Franz. Thank you for having me, and thank you guys for checking us out. And I hope that you go out there and make something great.
Yeah, and share your work and share the
Yes.
episode with all your friends who want to do art and they don't have a courage. And maybe subscribe so you help us to be more visible and bring
Hit the
more
subscribe.
artists
Subscribe.
through
Subscribe.
mindsets back to this place that we call the arts world, which is the best. I mean, God is an artist and a creator. We are his
There you
children.
go.
So we're all artists and creators, you guys.
There you go.
It was
Love you,
easy.
France. That's
Thank you.
great.
See you all next week then. Thank you so much, everyone, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.